Hey everybody, it's Manika and welcome to my channel where I help social workers, counselors, and helping professionals deepen their level of self-awareness while boosting their competence and confidence in the profession. So for today's video, we're going to be talking about all things jobs interviews. How can you nail that social work job interview and show your true competence and confidence? If you're interested in this topic, then please keep watching. I'm Manika Thomas, the founder and clinical social worker at Kindred Connections Therapy Center. I've been a social worker for over 12 years. I decided to do an entire YouTube channel on my journey from cubicle working social worker to successful entrepreneur. Welcome to my channel. So as someone who hires a lot of social workers and counselors, I wanted to give you my perspective as someone who's sitting on the opposite side, on the interviewing side, for when you come into your interview. I'm going to share with you some of the questions that I ask and then some of the answers that I look for if I'm wanting to hire a highly competent and highly confident social worker. So I'm going to be covering 6 questions that are very typical, but I think it's key that you have really strong answers for these 6 questions. So the most basic question that you're going to answer when you first come into a job interview is, so tell me about yourself. And one of the worst ways to answer this question is by saying, well, what do you want to know? When you come into an interview, you should already be prepared to answer that question. And you should already have in place what's oftentimes referred to in marketing as an elevator pitch ready to go. So there are 4 key things that I want you to mention when you hear the question, tell me about yourself. So 1 is pretty typical to include your educational background. That includes where you went to school. Number 2, you want to include any specializations or any certifications that you have that will help you stand out from other candidates. Number 3, you want to talk about the target population that you have the experience with or the position that you're interviewing for. You want to talk about the skill sets that you possess that show that you're the best fit to work with this target population. And number 4, you want to mention a role that directly relates to the job that you're applying for. And you want to talk about the major responsibilities that you had in that position that can demonstrate some transferable skill sets for the position that you're applying for. So let me give you an example of what that could sound like. My name is Manika Thomas. I hold a bachelor's degree in social work as well as a master's degree in social work from the Ohio State University. I completed a specialization in school social work where I wanted to work with school-age children who were experiencing non-academic barriers to success. And what I enjoy doing is working with students who are having difficulty at home and helping them address some of the challenges and barriers that they can be bringing to school that's impacting their ability to focus and their ability to learn and to display good social skills with their peers. My most recent position, I worked at a pre-K through 8 building as a site coordinator, and in that role, I was responsible for working with outside community agencies who wanted to provide services in the school building. So that means I was responsible for coordinating tutoring services for the students. I was responsible for linking them up with mental health supports and services, and I was also responsible for helping to coordinate our after-school program to give them additional educational support if they were having difficulty getting their homework done. So with that example, you want to make sure that you're identifying your target population. If you are interviewing for a school, you want to call the client and the target population students. If you are interviewing at an agency or a nonprofit, you want to refer to them as clients. If you are interviewing in a hospital setting, you want to refer to the target population as patients. So you want to know what the language is for the industry that you're working with. Because social work is such a broad field, you want to be mindful about what the language is before you go into the interview. Hey everybody, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, or share it. Also, be sure to click the notification bell because I upload a new video every Monday. And make sure you check out the Afrocentric Social Worker podcast. You can check that out on all the major podcasting platforms. The link to the podcast can be found below in the description. Number 2, I often ask, what attracted you to the position? So with this question, I'm really wanting to get a feel for why are you choosing to apply for this position as opposed to other positions. Although I know when you come into an interview, you've probably already put your resume out to at least 4 or 5 other agencies, if not more. But with that question, I'm really wanting to gather What about the organization? What about this work? What about the mission that's really wanting you to have your roots set here? And what value can you provide to the team and to the culture of the agency? So with this question, you again want to go back to the target population that you're working with, and you want to identify the skill sets that you think would be helpful and beneficial for the target population. So one of the ways that you can answer this question is by really highlighting your skill sets and the things that are unique that you have and that you can bring to the role. So for example, if you're wanting to work in a hospital or in an emergency room setting, you could say something like, I really enjoy working in a crisis environment. I feel that I thrive very well under pressure. I'm someone who can make decisions very quickly. I understand when people are having to make decisions when they're in a state of crisis, that sometimes their ability to think through the crisis can be very difficult. I think I'm really good at being able to calm the environment and help people understand what decisions need to be made at very critical times. I'm not someone who typically gets heightened in situations where there are multiple things happening at once. I'm pretty good at scanning the environment and then determining what decisions need to be made very quickly. So in that example, you're able to not only speak to your skill sets, you're able to speak to things that you've done in real life situations, and you'll also be giving your employer an idea of how you will perform if that situation happens to come up in the workplace, which is really what an employer wants to know. So if an employer is asking you questions about your skill sets, we really don't want to hear you rattle off empty words such as I'm empathetic, I'm a hard worker, I am very compassionate. Oftentimes we know all of those words. We really don't care about what the word is. We really care about your ability to demonstrate it in real time and being able to give concrete examples of ways that you've shown that to be a consistent characteristic in the way that you show up and do your work. So another question that I typically ask is, what skills do you possess that make you a good fit for the position? So for that question, again, not only am I wanting to assess your skill level, I'm also wanting to assess whether or not you show a competence in the skills that you have. And I'm wanting to know, can you communicate what those skills are? Are you showing confidence in those skills? Are you second guessing your skills? And when you're talking about your skills, are you saying it more in a question form, or are you saying it more in a definitive, confident form? So if I'm asking you about what skills you have and you say, I'm a good decision maker, I'm good at problem solving, I'm thinking, well, are you? I'm wanting to know for sure, are these skills that you truly possess? And I'm wanting you to be able to demonstrate what that looks like, again, in real time. So if you were applying to work for a mentoring program, for example, one, you have to think about what skills are valued when it comes to working in a mentoring program. One, you know that communication is going to be key. Not only are you going to have to communicate with the mentor, but you're also going to have to communicate with the mentee. Another skill that's going to be important is organization. You have to coordinate the schedules of when the mentee and the mentor can meet together. If you're going to have meetups, you have to be able to coordinate that. There are also events that you will have to be able to coordinate. So those are the skills that you want to be able to speak to. You want to be able to speak to your ability to coordinate events, your ability to coordinate schedules and times, and your ability to communicate effectively between a mentor and a mentee. Number 4, I would also ask, tell me about a problem that you had with a client and how you solved it. So with this question, I'm really wanting to assess your problem solving skills and your ability to give feedback to clients as well as to potential coworkers if you need to. So with this question, there's a common format that's often used when you're answering this question, and this will help you answer the question pretty effectively. So you want to think about a PAR technique. That's P-A-R. PAR. And what that stands for is you want to identify the problem, then you want to talk about the action that you took to solve the problem, and then what was the result of the action that you took. So the problem could be, I was contacting my client multiple times to set up our initial meeting for us to go over the paperwork for the program that they were scheduled to participate in. I left messages with the client, I sent them letters, I had communicated the value of the program, I reached out to them multiple times just to seek their input on whether or not they wanted to participate in the program or not. And I recognized that I was having a lot of engagement engagement issues with the client before we even had a chance to have our initial meeting. So the action that I took was I contacted the client again. I let them know of an upcoming event that we were having at the agency and told them that I would really like to see them there so that we can meet one-on-one and so we can get the intake portion started for the program. I also put a letter in the mail for them. I included the flyer for the event as well as my business card so they had multiple ways to get in touch with me. As a result, the client did call me back. They let me know that they were interested in participating in the upcoming program and that they had really been busy with their schedule at work. They had to take on a couple extra shifts and that they would be coming to the event so we can meet together and talk about getting the intake process started. So the reason why this is a good example is because nonprofit agencies, social service agencies, therapy practices, we all know that client engagement can make or break our business. And starting out from the beginning, having that relationship and rapport is very key. And building trust with the client often takes time. So your employer is going to know that you're not going to stop at the first action that you take if you're not able to get in touch with a client. They may want to even at least see 3 attempts that you've made to be able to make contact. So number 5, another common question that I ask is, do you work better independently or as part of a team? Now this question comes with the understanding that there will be some tasks that you're going to have to work totally independent, and there are some tasks where the team is going to have to come together, whether it's a multidisciplinary team or if it's a staff meeting or something that's being coordinated agency-wide or on behalf of your private practice. So this question is getting an idea of your temperament, how you work well with others, if you're effective at communicating in a group, if you prefer to work independently, and whether or not when you have to work in a group, is it something that you dread, where you kind of bring down the mood and you're really not a team player and providing feedback and input to make the process, whatever the process is that you're working on, but to make the process go smoothly. So with this answer, I always say answer as honestly as possible. I always like to hear a mix, meaning that I know and I see that you can demonstrate that you have the ability to work independently, and then you can also work as a part of a team. So I would just ask in an interview that you would give me examples of both of those scenarios where you've done really good work. And number 6, I will ask you, what type of supervision style do you prefer? In order to answer this question, you have to know about the various supervision styles. So some of the major supervision styles that you might hear people talk about is kind of a hands-off, laissez-faire type of management style where your supervisor really doesn't have a lot of hands-on interaction with you. You might hear people talk about a micromanager. You might have a democratic leader, which is more so what I am, where I like to try to get the feedback and input of my team. So you have to know which supervising style do you like better. And the reason why that's important for me to know as someone who's hiring you is because you might perceive my asking questions of you of a task, when things will be done, and deadlines as me micromanaging you, where it can really just be about me getting firm deadlines in place so we can check things off the list as done and completed. So your perception around management style and what that means is going to be very important. And your manager and supervisor should be able to adjust their style to accommodate what works best for you. Now, not everyone is going to do that. Either you're going to have to learn how to adjust to your manager, or you're going to have a miserable time working at the organization. So I hope these interview tips were helpful for you. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, or share it. I'll be uploading more videos to help you boost your competence and confidence in the profession. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, be well.